Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to do some early spring trimming on my Silverthorne bonsai, Elaeagnus pungens. And as you can see, we have new growth appearing, like right there, and right there, and right there. And what's very interesting is it's basically a double trunk, even though this trunk over here is more of like a branch, but it has not really emerged all that much. The other trunk has a lot of brand new growth. So this is the time to get to it to make sure it doesn't grow crazy. Now I talk about when a branch grows to 5 leaves, cut it back to 1 or 2. And so if you notice where this branch is, I want this branch to come out horizontally. So if I cut it to there, then the new growth is going to follow this leaf, which is going to shoot straight up. So I don't want that. So I want to cut it one more. And now the new growth is going to follow this leaf, which is almost entirely horizontal. So the same way up here. If I cut to here, boy, it's hard to look through the viewfinder and hold your scissors. If I cut to there, then we have this leaf pointing straight up, but I don't want that. I want it to go to there so that the new growth emerges and follows this leaf horizontally. So on the apex, something like the apex, that's not that big of a deal because so I can just chop the apex a little bit. But that's what I'm talking about, is when a branch grows to 4 or 5, cut it back to 1 or 2. And some of these are perhaps a little too small for that, but you need to stay on it. And at this point, when they're this young, it's fairly easy to just pinch them away with your fingers versus trimming them with cutters. But there's a perfect example of trimming to a leaf, because every leaf has a bud at the base of the petiole, and that bud is going to follow the leaf out. So if you want horizontal growth, cut to a leaf that's pointing horizontally. If you want upward growth, you cut to a leaf that's pointing up. So there you go. And now for the rest of this video. So like this guy here is pointing up, but I don't want growth shooting back against the grain. So if I cut to this leaf, the new growth is going to shoot back against the grain like that. And I don't want that. I want it to go out. So, and now this process is going to continue throughout the growing season, which is about next 6 months. So here's another one that I'm going to cut. So there we go. Now, last year I took some cuttings from this guy, and I got pretty decent rooting from the cuttings. And so the rest of this video is I'm going to pot those guys up. Take the cuttings out of the container that they rooted in and give them their own container so they continue to grow. They can continue to grow on and mature. So here's my setup for taking the cuttings from the container they were rooted in and putting them into their own individual containers. So I have the container with the cuttings, and then I have my own homemade organic soil, and then I have the pots, and I actually have 3 different pot sizes. Over here, those are 6-inch bulb pans. Over here, those are 8-inch bulb pans, and hiding behind the pot with the plants in are 3 food containers that contained, I think, mushrooms. But these are great little training pots. So I know that I'm going to get one or two very large cuttings, because if we look at the cuttings here, we see that there is one that is huge. This guy here is massive. And then there's one, two, maybe three more that could go into 6-inch containers. And then depending on how many I get, they're going to go into either more 6-inch containers or the food trays. And I want to discuss the cutting bed. It's just a 10-inch bulb pan. So you see right here, it's all empty. None of those survive. And over here we have one that is just dead. And, well, okay. I don't get 100%. I don't think anybody ever gets 100%. But the ones that have rooted are super healthy. Some of them are a little smaller only because the cuttings were a little smaller. I only had one stock plant to take cuttings from. And then, of course, another very important part of potting up trees is my spoon. I could gouge my hand in there, but I don't really like to do that. So I take my spoon. I'm going to start with some of the smaller ones, trying to disturb the roots as little as possible. And there we go. See, that one is really not much of a subject for a 6-inch pot. It's going to work a lot better in one of these food trays. So put it into the food tray, and I'm confident that we're going to get some larger cuttings that have more roots, because one of the biggest reasons that I do this, grow my bonsai from cuttings like this, is that I can manipulate the roots early. So let's try this little bit bigger one here. I may just lift them all up. There we go. Now, give it a shake, rattle, and roll. See, now there is a really nice root system. Get rid of the weeds. So that's what we're talking about. So now, what I can do is I can get all of the roots on the surface, and I call this feathering the roots out. So I take all the roots and I try to get every single root that's going to be an eventual surface root, and just tease them so they're all facing perpendicular from the trunk in a 360 degree pattern. And boy, that is just like, you couldn't ask for better. And I'm going to do a little bit of pruning, but I don't want to do a lot of root pruning. I want these guys to grow as quickly as they can. But that is just perfect. And of course I've got some perlite in here, which I can then mix in with my soil. Oh, and another thing I forgot to say, because I showed some videos of mixing my soil, is I also add a little bit of lime to keep the pH from being a little too low. So there you go. Now if there's any roots that are pointing a little up, I try to make sure that I get them horizontal, and then very gently add the soil, and then also just as gently press it down. And there we go, man. That is going to be a gorgeous little tree. And yes, it's going to take a while, but time goes by. That's one thing I figured out. I can be sitting in front of my computer playing stupid computer games, or I can be doing my bonsai, but the time goes by just the same. So here we go. Should I just do the shake, rattle, and roll technique? The spoon doesn't seem to be working all that well. So just pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Hi. How many more have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 more. And I've got 2 more food containers, 4 more 6-inch, and 4 more 8-inch. So this guy, I think I'm going to give him a 6-inch also. And now this one doesn't have anywhere near as nice a root system as the last one. But by the same token, it does have a lot of little tiny roots that are all coming from the trunk. So I try to make sure that they all point away from the trunk in a 365-degree pattern. Right here you can see it's missing. And then we have this very large root, which I'm going to cut because I want these smaller roots to fill in. I don't want that large root dominating the root system. Fill up my container with soil, and I make a little bit of a mound. Put that guy on there, and then feather those roots out the best I can. And you don't want to be too aggressive either. I don't like to be too aggressive because then you can start snapping those little tender roots. Okay. And these guys are young and they're thin, and that's okay. Elaeagnus grow fairly rapidly, especially with long canes, much like a parrot's beak. They're not as tropical as a parrot's beak, so let's see what we got here. Oh, there's another beauty. And you know, just for the sake of the number of pots I've got, I think I may put this into an 8-inch. Give it a little bit of a prune of those excess roots. And I don't have to fill the pot all the way to the top either. So this is going into an 8-inch. Gonna make my little mound and take the roots and try to get all the surface roots. Facing the same direction, and sometimes I'll actually put my finger on the bottom of the cutting and then into the pot. And just very gently position those roots. And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. And like I said, I don't have to fill the whole pot up. My vision for these guys in the near future is as soon as I start to see really good growth, because they are emerging. And this very organic soil has some natural nutrition. The fertilizer content in there is, adequate to get these guys off to the start. And then when I really see them start to take off, I think I'm going to concentrate on the littler guys on the outside. They seem to be easier to pull away. And I only want to pull one away. You notice how this guy wants to come with. And look at that, an oak, a live oak. Okay, I'm going to save him. I got to put him in some water. And we conveniently have a container of water right there. Isn't that interesting? A live oak as a weed in my Elaeagnus cuttings. Now, this guy was against the edge of the pot. You can see it right there, just no roots going out this way. But I can take those roots and pull them like that. And this guy really only has 2 roots. However, I can still, and this root here has a lot more excess, so I'm going to take that away and put him in a bulb pan. With the little mound. That is one drawback of being up against. You see how these roots are so flat this way? That's because the cutting was up against the outside of the container. But I can still train those roots, even though they're only coming from one big root. I can train them out like this, being as gentle as I can be to get more of a 360-degree root ball. And then cover it up. And I don't want to jam the soil way down in there. I want to just give it enough to hold the trees in place, but don't want to compress the soil too much. So what do we got? Is that a tiny little guy? I do believe he is. Okay, now here's one that's a perfect subject for the smaller container. So we're going to give him, oh, and I also used my all-purpose awl, okay, to poke drain holes, because these guys do not have drain holes. Some food containers that you buy fruit in are already perforated because the fruit needs to breathe a little bit so it won't rot. But these were mushrooms. Okay, there we go. Now, even though these 2 roots, if we look, the 2 main roots are coming, they're coming almost 180 degrees away from each other. But when I put them into the pot, I can pull them around so they're closer to about 60 degrees away from each other. So if we're looking at a clock, we got midnight, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. So even though that was a small cutting, it had some pretty nice roots. And they were placed to where, and now there's a little higher root that I'm going to take away. I'm just going to take him away. And he's a little uneasy in the pot there. And if I find that they really fall over after they're watered, and sometimes, we get heavy rain, they're predicting rain for later today, then I'll put a rock. I'll use a rock. Do I have a rock around? I don't think I do. But I use rocks. So if this guy's going to fall over like that, I'll put a rock right here just to keep it upright. Once they've rooted out, then that's usually not that big of an issue. So now we have 3 left. Oop, nope, wrong. We have 4 left. And this is another one that I think is a good candidate for the food tray. The roots are not perfect on this one, that's for sure. We have a lot of little roots that are coming way up high, but only one main root. So what do? I don't usually promote these high roots. And then with one main root, there's not much to feather. So and you come up against this. They don't all root perfectly. It's just the way of the world. So sometimes when they only have one big root like that, you can make a very interesting slanting trunk so that the large root kind of balances the slant of the trunk visually. So a tree with just one big root like that is not necessarily a bad thing. And there were some of those smaller roots that could possibly fill in. You know, another thing I'm not doing is I could have chopped that big root way, way, way back, but then you're setting the plant back, and I don't want to do that. I want these guys to grow. Okay. Oh, yeah. The last three are the biggest. And I'm thinking 8-inch for this guy, too. Probably, I know for sure the very largest one is going to be 8-inch. And I'll just have to look at the roots of the next one. So this is another one with just awesome roots. A little bit sparse here, but really, because remember, each tree has a front too, so you know, this can just be the back. We've got a really big root right there already, and another fairly large one there, and they're placed really well. So I'm really happy with that. And I guess I can grade my cuttings the same way I grade my trees. You know, I talk about A trees and B trees and C trees. So as far as the roots, I give this root mass an A. Because it's exactly what I want. Now there's another interesting thing I want to show you. See where it's dark right here? Okay, can you see that? That's where it was in the seed tray. So the roots came from way, way down. And of course, when you're rooting a cutting, you really want to send it down into the rooting medium, or else it can dry up and just wither away. So easy. Okay, so now let's do the next guy, and the next guy I think is another 8-inch. We'll do another 8-inch. Mainly because even though it doesn't have as nice roots as the last one, the roots are pretty long, and I only want to cut just a minimal amount of those roots. And into the feather this stuff out. And I'm not concerned about a little bit of perlite still attaching to the roots. That's just totally inconsequential. And then get that guy in there very gently. Move the roots out. See, and there is one small root right here that I can pull to, you know, if we talk about 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, I can pull that to the whatever you'd call it, the 8 o'clock position. And another reason that I don't totally jam the soil down, especially near the trunk, is that you can get the roots to be really weird. So you can have a root. I really need my chalk talk. So you can have a root that comes out like this, well, let's say like this, and then if you jam it way down close to the trunk, let's say the trunk is right here, if you jam it way down close to the trunk, you can push the root. So now the root has this weird where it goes down and then back up. And I do not like that. And then last, but very definitely not least, the largest, most vigorous guy. With a bunch of roots. And like I said, I'm not really concerned about if some of the perlite ends up in my other soil. Although I do save my perlite too, so this cutting tray that is now empty, I can use this for more cuttings now. And I usually add a little bit of organic matter, which is why it looks so dirty. But perlite is also, much like bonsai soil, it's rocks. Perlite is actually volcanic origin. Oh man, this is just so nice. Look at this root ball. We've got a pretty large root there and another one right here. And I'm sure there's more. Oh yeah, look at that. It's like almost perfect. And just to get it in the pot, I need to trim a little bit. Trim over here. And just feather those roots. And if some are going over the edge and they're going to end up circling a little bit, that's okay. Because when I repot these guys, I can just remove and take off all this sort of upright growth. Okay, there I want to push down. I push down around the edge, but I don't want to push down around the trunk. And there we go. That guy's got just a perfect beginnings of a great nabari. So, as an amateur, with no real mist system or kind of greenhouse to take cuttings, I'm pretty happy with the percentage that I got from these guys. Pretty happy indeed. Now, all these came from the bonsai that I showed you at the beginning of this video, but I'm not going to let that tree elongate anymore. That tree is a finished tree, and now it's just in the maintenance stage. However, if we look at this puppy, you can see that there's the potential to take even more cuttings, even in another month or two. A lot of these guys, and of course you're going to reduce them, turn them into bonsai. So all that stuff that you reduce, oh man. See, and I can't cut that out because then, for some unknown reason, if I edit these things, I've had it happen where you get to the processing stage with when you upload a YouTube video and it says YouTube cannot process this video. So you're stuck with that. Or maybe I'm stuck with that. And you have gone somewhere else because you say, why should I watch that? And I apologize. So how did we end up? We ended up with 4 8-inch and 3 6-inch and 3 in the smaller food containers. And if you're wondering what these guys are, they're seedling pansies. I grow a lot of flowers. Actually, they're pansies. And then there's another group of zinnia, which are those guys right there. And then another species of pansy, variety of pansy. I don't know why I had to show you those, but they were in the shot, so you may wonder. So now these guys are going to get a good watering, and they're going to go in a little bit of shade, but to get them really kicking, lots of fertilizer and pretty much full sun, making sure they don't dry out. Iliagnus are pretty tough, but if you want the most growth as quickly as you can, then you need to be very consistent with the water and the fertilizer. So there you go. I guess I'll set the tripod down. There you go. And now I have another seed tray or cutting tray to take even more cuttings. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That wasn't bad. I'm pretty happy with that, especially off of only 1 tree. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I truly believe that the best way to get your root systems really nice with nice nabari is to grow your trees from cuttings, and I know it takes a time, but I'm 68 and I'm still doing this, and who knows, you know, I'm not worried about that. I love to do this. I love my finished trees too, but these would be much nicer finished trees because I've feathered the roots early, and as they mature, those roots that emanate from the trunk at 360 degrees will make such a nice nabari versus, you know, you can dig these up out of the landscape and then who knows what you get. So once again, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll give you an update on these guys probably in 2 or 3 months. Elaeagnus grow very long, leggy growth. So these guys here, all this stuff here that has just emerged, without doing anything to it, it can be 2 feet long in 2 or 3 months. Just whoosh. And that's what I want. That's what I'm going to let them do. I'm just going to let them go crazy. Get the trunks as thick as I can, get the roots established as quick as I can. So, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment if you'd like. And I will see you in the next video.